Towson over the earth for baseball insiders and folks out there in the steamy heat of Los Angeles. This guy's been covering baseball as long as I can remember. I remember reading him back when I was a kid, so I know he's as confused by this Houston LA World Series as most of us are when two National League teams are getting together in a World Series, but we're all adjusting these days. He is Barry M. Bloom out on Twitter and Boomski out there, national reporter and columnist at MLB.com, and he's working on the air conditioning out there in L.A. Barry, first off, welcome in, man. It's great to talk World Series with you. I'll say this. These are the two best teams, right? I mean, and for that, I'm grateful. This should be a great World Series we have ahead in the next week.
Yeah, there's no doubt, that what the Astros did their last two games to come back and beat the Yankees proved that they were the better team in the American League. And even though they finished with less wins than the Indians, they're by far the best team in the league. So, I think we have a good matchup here. And the Dodgers have been, really irrepressible all season.
Well, when I think of the Dodgers, I think of winning. I'm wearing my Dodgers hat right now that Janet Marie gave me out there when I did my tour a couple of years ago with my wife, and I love Dodger Stadium. And, I'd prefer 72 and sunny to 96 and steamy, as the twilight sets. But certainly, it's been a long time for the Dodgers, and they've been knocking on the door. And more than that, all the things they've done in that organization to spend their money wisely. I remember when the McCourts at the Baltimore background got involved out there. The place was a mess.
Fox didn't leave it in very good shape. That interim between the O'Malleys and the McCourts really did a lot of damage to the franchise. And when you think that the McCourts basically bought the Dodgers for $400 million, most of it was bankruptcy papers, or I should say financial papers, taken back by Fox so they could afford to make the deal. It's amazing that in such a short period of time after that, even with the bankruptcy it was in, that the Dodgers were sold for $2.15 billion. And that was because the Guggenheim Group judged correctly that the market for their cable dollars here was going to be tremendous, and far and away what they anticipated. So it set the club on decent footing. I think little credit is given to Ned Colletti and his organization for sticking with the method of building from the outside, but keeping the young players like Bellinger and Peterson and Seager, the guys that they built with from within, and who are now coming to the forefront in the major leagues. You look around, it's a good, strong young team, replacing guys like Crawford and Agon and people like that who are just done early for whatever reason.
Well,
so, it's a tremendous, amalgam between what the Colletti Group did and the Freeman Group has been able to do to get it across the line.
And plenty of star power here, and veteran star power, whether you're an old Phillies fan and you're trying to catch up with Chase Utley or Granderson or even Verlander coming in the side door here. We've seen some heroes and goats of October's past that are also involved in this thing, but this is really about Correa and Altuve. And for me, it's about Kershaw being a generational pitcher who's going to have an opportunity here to maybe 3 starts in the next week to solidify that Hall of Fame feeling by getting himself a ring.
Yeah, well, I think it's probably 2 starts. At this point, and this is one of the keys to the team as opposed to the past, the Dodgers have enough frontline pitching and enough bullpen that they don't need to use Clayton Kershaw 3 times in this series. This isn't like what the Indians had to do last year with Corey Kluber because they were short starters. They've got a full staff. They'll probably, pitch the same 4 guys that they did in the championship series. Granderson, I was looking at it today. I never, to differ with you, Granderson, I never understood that trade. I never understood the demotion of Jock Peterson to the minor leagues at that point. This was a team that was 60 games over 500 and 22 games over the Diamondbacks at the point they started making changes. And as it turns out today, Granderson's been such a washout, he's not even on the World Series roster. Peterson is. So it was a waste of time, a waste of space, a waste of, somebody's feelings because it didn't go over well in the clubhouse and it didn't go over well with Peterson, and it led to the only downturn in the Dodger season.
Well, and then Dave Roberts has also, been charged with making those kind of decisions, right? And
he doesn't he doesn't make those decisions. It's a collective, just like every organization now. These are collective decisions. Basically, they sit down at a table, they all weigh in, but essentially they give Roberts the players that they want to give him, and then Roberts has to make the best of it. And to his credit, he has.
He is Boomski out on Twitter, and he is Barry M. Bloom. You can follow him at MLB.com. National reporter, longtime columnist, baseball historian, and author as well at Boomski. That's Boomskie. He's going to be chasing the World Series around here all week. The Astros and what they've gone through, certainly the flood and the acquisition of Verlander. And I guess, also on the other side, you look at Yu Darvish from the Dodgers, and you look at even where Sonny Gray was with the Yankees. All of that bluster we give in June and July to the trading deadline and who's going to acquire whom. Right now, the Astros were certainly the big winner with Verlander, and what he's done to, I don't say resurrect his career, but put himself back into that Hall of Fame conversation. This has been kind of an otherworldly run, and he's going to get the ball a couple of times this week, too.
Yeah. Well, Verlander, if you look at Verlander's postseason numbers, aside for Game 1 of the 2012 World Series when he led up 3 homers to Panda and the Giants, he's been pretty darn good. I covered 2 Tiger series in the ALDS where he pitched 4 of the greatest games I've ever seen and shut down the team like I've never seen a team shut down, to the point where Billy Beane called it, we couldn't get over Matt Verlander, and they couldn't. And that's the same guy you're seeing in this postseason. He has the equipment and the equipment to do it. And, you keep throwing around this Hall of Fame thing, and it's one of the conversations. As a voter, it's one of the things I've been talking about a lot this year. And I've had long on-the-record and off-the-record conversations with Verlander and Kershaw about this and how we judge starters into the Hall of Fame. And, the last 31 of 33 starting pitchers to get in the Hall of Fame have been 300 winners. And these guys, Kershaw and Verlander, are probably not even going to get close. Verlander right now in a great career has got maybe 175 wins. Kershaw's about 140, a little north of that. They're 10 years, 12 years in. They've got a lot of time left to pitch, but they're not getting close to 300 wins. So the question is, how do we readjust our way of picking starters? And, how does the analytics go into it so that we can make those decisions? Because right now, by the previous numbers, neither guys are Hall of Famers.
Well, part of that is also not getting as many starts, having 5-man rotations, all of that stuff. Pedro Martinez barely got to 200, almost 220.
Well, that's not. Well, Martinez is really the outlier in the last group, and Bert Blyleven was pretty darn close to 300. So and he's the other one. So and it took him almost 15 years to get in. So all the guys, Maddox, Glavine, Randy Johnson, they all of those guys with 300 wins all pitched in 5-man rotations. So throw that out the window.
Well, Messina and Schilling would also be guys, right? You throw Messina and Schilling in there too, that they're not in, right?
No, well, Messina's got 270 wins, and he's got 6 more years on the ballot, and I think ultimately he's going to get in, because he's trending in the right direction. In my mind, Curt Schilling never gets in, and he's down around 219 wins. He's not going to get in. He's not Pedro Martinez. There were other numbers with Martinez, particularly his winning percentage, which was close to the top in history. Near Johnson, with for 10 years he was probably the greatest pitcher in baseball in both leagues. So he's the only outlier in all of this. So essentially, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to look at, you're going to have to look at all the numbers differently, and I'm not really sure how it's going to happen, to get those guys in. but it's going to be a long road ahead for Verlander and Kershaw to get into the Hall of Fame.
But this is part of the road. Winning and pitching well right now adds bonus credits. I would think it should have for Jack Morris, right? You know?
No, it didn't for Jack Morris. Because Jack Morris, it wasn't a better postseason pitcher than Jack Morris. He won 3 World Championships with 3 different teams and pitched one of the greatest games in World Series history, Game 7 of the 1991 World Series. A 10-inning, 1-0 shutout. And he didn't get into the Hall of Fame. If he gets in, it's going to be on a Veterans Committee ballot. And I have my doubts about that because they don't vote people in. But we didn't vote him in. I thought he should have been in. He didn't get in. It's Schilling, the only credible argument for Schilling to get into the Hall of Fame is his postseason numbers. He had tremendous postseason numbers, much better than Pedro's. But it's not going to get him in. And then you look at Pettit next year, he's going to be on the ballot with Mo. Pettit has like 250 wins. He's got like 19 in the postseason, and he's got the most ever in the postseason. Is that going to push him over the top? I don't know, and I don't think so. I don't think voters are going to vote these guys in. It's a tremendous anomaly in the whole system. And that's why I started talking to guys about it. I wanted to know their feelings. And really, Verlander said, he thinks he's still capable of getting to 300 wins. Well, yeah, sure, maybe another 8 season of 15 to 20 wins. If you could do it, that'd be great. And then it's not even an issue, or even get close. But there are plenty of guys, Tommy John, Jim Cott, those guys, barely, they were 280 wins, right around the vicinity. I mean, Jim Cott had something like 15 Gold Gloves, and we didn't vote him in, which I think was a stupid mistake.
Well, it took Sutton a long time too, right? I mean, forever.
No, it didn't take Sutton a long time. Sutton got in pretty quickly, and he had over 300 wins. So I mean, that's the benchmark. I mean, Sutton had 310 wins. He got in pretty. If you look back, Sutton had no problem getting in. Maybe he didn't get in on the first ballot, but he got in pretty quickly after that. I'm just telling you, we don't put starters into the Hall of Fame. You go a long time from Nolan Ryan to Bert Blyleven, and there was the gap there. It was about 10 years between starters. And then we had a plethora of them with Johnson, Maddox, Flavin, Pedro,
Smoltz.
were all the best pitchers of that. Smoltz. And he was a combined guy because he also, didn't have a lot of wins, but he had a lot of saves. So he fell into like the Eckersley category, but he wouldn't have gotten into the Hall of Fame. Smoltz wouldn't have without his record as a closer, and neither would have Eckersley.
That's why I love having you on the show, man.
Those are completely different guys.
I call you to talk World Series. We wind up meandering into this awesome Hall of Fame debate. He is Barry M. Bloom. He is Boomski.
Well, you mentioned it. That's what, when you tag these guys as Hall of Famers, they're not. They're potential just like everybody else. You can't say that Kershaw and Verlander are dead bang Hall of Famers. They're not.
I think Kershaw has done more, even though he's done less, right? I mean, he's got less wins, but he's been more dominant, right? Maybe it's just because of the timing of where we are. It's 2017. I'm with you. Wake me in 2021, right now, and I'll tell you where we are on any of the pitchers at any point, right? And
Kershaw's still fairly early in his career, and if he doesn't get hurt, the numbers down the end of it are going to be pretty different. Although his constant back injuries haven't helped him over the last couple of years, he's starting to miss a lot of time. And the more time he misses, all of a sudden you come into a part of his career where suddenly he may need back surgery, and he may never make it back to where he was at the start of his career. I mean, really, the only guy to really get in who had a truncated career was Koufax. I mean, he really had 6 good seasons if you look at it, but those were tremendous seasons. And then his career ended early because of an arm injury. It started late because Walter Alston wouldn't put him in the rotation until he absolutely had to. And so it was very short. But I don't think anybody ever argued that Koufax, the guy won 27 games in 1 year. How many times has Kershaw even won 20? And he's a guy who pitches deep into games. So you can't use the argument where, you throw out the win for a starting pitcher because he only pitches 5 or 6 innings. He doesn't. He pitches into the 7th and 8th, and if you look at his record, the deeper he goes into the games, the more times the Dodgers win and the more wins he gets. But it's still not up there with, the guys of the past who, pitched hundreds of complete games.
Barry M. Bloom is Boomski. That's Boomskie out on Twitter. Longtime baseball historian. He's doing it out at MLB.com and writes a lot about cancer survivors and cancer-related stories as he is a survivor himself. So I always enjoy his work. He's a great follow out on Twitter at Boomski as well. You mentioned going deep into games and starting pitching. If the Astros lose, if there's a parade in L.A. 2 weeks from now, I would think the prediction would be because of the Astros bullpen, right? They're going to go deeper in this, and certainly it was a disaster up at Yankee Stadium that opened the door for the Yankees to get back into the series. I'm sure the Dodgers are thinking along those lines, but the Dodgers just have more pitching. I mean, we can see that going in now. How that affects a 7-game series, we're going to find out.
Look, I'll go out on a limb. I'm usually never right about these things, but I'm going to say the Dodgers are going to win this series. Okay, and because I've watched them more all season being out west. I've spent most of the year this year out west as opposed to last year, which I spent a lot in the east. And I covered the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks a lot. And the Dodgers, they went out, as I said, to a 22-game lead. They had a bad spot at the end of August, early September. Diamondbacks won 13 in a row, and they cut it to 11, which is pretty much where it ended. So the Dodgers won the division without a sweat. They won the NLDS over the Diamondbacks without a sweat. They didn't break a sweat to beat the Cubs, and they're really probably not going to break much of a sweat to beat the Astros either. This is a team, forget about the Astros, okay? Just look at the Dodgers. It's as solid a team in baseball as there has been in a long time. There's no weaknesses in it. It's got deep starting pitching. It's got a great bullpen. It's got good starting infield and outfield. They've replaced Grandal behind the plate with Austin Barnes, who's hit well and works well with the pitchers. The backup shortstop, Culberson, has been great with Seager out in the last round. This is where, when you spend $250 million, if you do it the right way, you have so much depth that's how you win. And I'm not discrediting the Astros. That's why you play the games. I mean, the Astros could very well upset them, but I saw something yesterday where somebody said that the Dodgers are the underdogs in the series. That's ridiculous. I mean, anybody who's watched them all year knows that if they didn't have that one glitch, they probably would have set the record for most wins in a season. And the Astros had their glitch too, which just shows you no matter how good you are, it's a long season and everybody's going to have their downturn. But the Dodgers had plenty of time to work it all out. And, when you have Darvish as your really number 3 pitcher, and they've worked with him and tinkered his release point to the point where they broke him down, he was terrible, built him back up again, and now he's pitching the way he should pitch. And he's your number 3 pitcher going up against Charlie Morton. This isn't CeCe against Charlie Morton. This is Darvish against Charlie Morton. So, and it's Alex Wood who went 11-0, going against Lance McCullers. This is what you have here, and none of these guys in the Dodger starting rotation have to go any more than 5 or 6 innings because the bullpen is just set up with lefty-righty matchups, and like Brandon Morrow came over nowhere and after shoulder injuries is throwing 98 miles an hour, and Kenley Jansen, who for my money is the best closer in baseball. Better than Chapman, better than Davis, better than a lot of guys. I mean, he's really lights out. He's got that cutter working just like Mo used to do. He's got this crazy motion, ice blood in his veins. You give the ball to Jansen in the 8th and 9th inning, and the game is pretty much over. So this is what you're looking at when you're looking at the Dodgers. And they do it so easily, and they're run so smoothly from top to bottom. I wasn't trying to disparage Doc when I told you that he doesn't make the decisions. He does. He's a composite of the decisions. And in an organization like the Dodgers, you need to have the manager on the page with all the guys above him because they're feeding him information and ideas and lineups and rosters. And basically, you have to have the manager on board on all that, because if he's fighting those people, then it doesn't work. And that's why you see people go by the wayside after a while in a lot of these organizations, because they're just not on board. But they are now, and that's where it is. And the Astros are very much run the same way. And so you have, two really good teams going after each other. But, I mean, really, you have an epic team with the Dodgers, I think, right now.
Barry Bloom covers all things Major League Baseball at MLB.com. He is Boomski out on Twitter. Look, I'm going to extend this conversation next time because I know you got baseball to go watch, and we're in a little bit of a time limit here. But we'll get together and discuss the manager thing and Dusty Baker and John Farrell and where the Orioles are going sometime around the winter meetings. Enjoy the World Series, Barry. I enjoy following you throughout the World Series. So when you're out there tweeting, I'm out there reading it. We will watch, and, I'm expecting 6 or 7 games here. Don't give me 4. Give me a good series is all I want to get,
Well, I hope it's not another 5-game series, because, right now the Dodgers haven't lost a home game, and, they're like 6-7-1 or something. I mean, we'll see.
We'll see.
It could be a short series.
Stay cool out there amidst the heat, man. We'll see you on the other side. Appreciate you, Barry.
You're welcome. Thanks.
You got it. Barry Bloom, one of the good dudes at Major League Baseball and MLB.com, national reporter and columnist and historian. You can follow him at Boomski, Boomskie, on Twitter. You can find us out of King Discount Liquors. I got to get out there and refill lottery, beer, booze. The best prices in Baltimore. It's in Rosedale. Give the King a ring. He's been with us for 2 decades now, sponsored WNST. Appreciate all that Paul King does. And tell him when you see him that I need some fresh Malbec. I hope to do that. We're also the voice of Coppin State University here at WNST. All fall, all winter, we're going to have those Eagles games on for basketball. Juan Dix is going to be joining us weekly. CoppinStateSports.com. You can learn more about our flagship relationship. I am Nasty at WNST.net. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. And if you miss us here, you can always find us out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.